Welcome back to part two of our segment, The Playground Pandemic. I'm Mark, and I'm here with Eric and with Suzie, our special guest today. Now, what I wanted to continue with is this, and again, everyone forgive me, I am under the weather with the flu, so do a little bit better tonight, but still congested, as you could have probably all hear. In response to where we left off in the first part of our segment, in terms of people ghosting us. If people are going ahead and they have an argument of some kind, or they just don't want to be they just don't like somebody, they have a right to go ahead and to block them, to ghost them, that kind of thing. But if you have a person in your life who considers themselves to be a loved one or your friend, and they are regularly blocking you or ghosting you, they're trying to gain an artificial advantage on you. In fact, I consider that to be a form of bullying. I really do. For somebody who uses that on a regular basis. I had a person who I'm on good terms with now, but years ago, I told this person, if you continue to go ahead and to block me and to ghost me, whenever you get upset or whether you disagree with me, we are not going to be able to have a relationship. You're going to be out of my life. That's the kind of thing that you need to do. Take back the reins. Believe that you are good enough where you don't have to stick around for those people. Now, if somebody does it as a one-off where they just need some space and they're maybe screening their calls for an evening or something, fine. That's human. Mm-hmm. If they're going ahead and they block you as a one-off, I don't like blocking at all in general. I think it needs to be avoided. I think it's kind of a harsh tool of blocking friends and loved ones. But okay, let's say as a one-off, people get into arguments, they block, they unblock, it can happen. But if somebody is doing that to you on an ongoing basis, they're using it as a means of leverage to get advantage of you, go run the other way as fast as you can and don't look over your shoulder ever again. These people need to be removed from your life. It is just outright mean. I want to hear your both thoughts on that. Suzie, let's start with you.
I feel like it boils down to control. It's a way for them to, I feel like it's a narcissistic tactic. Okay. And I feel like it's a tactic that is designed for people to see how far they could push you psychologically. I like how those kinds of people are also the people who complain that you are the negative one, that you are the one that's too sensitive, that you are the one that complains that you are too negative, that you're in a bad mood, you're upset, But they fully understand your weaknesses because you are friends with them, supposedly. So you're opening that door. You're opening that channel of communication. You're exposing yourself. You're becoming vulnerable. And you're telling them, especially for me, like I'm pretty vocal about people who I get close with, about my, previous substance abuse, And I get open about them, about, my mental health struggles and challenges, And so I feel like, there's also another saying that, it's like most people don't care about your problems, and if they do, 99% of them, either don't care and the other percent of them actually is happy that you have them. And it's those kinds of people that you meet, that you get very close with, you got to be very careful, because I've had instances where I've actually met people in recent years that have temporarily been my friends, and as soon as you expose them, and you assert your needs, you stand up for yourself, or you're going through problems and issues, and they block you, and they block you, but they themselves have a number of their own issues and problems. And you find that out through other people, you know what I mean? So that makes them seem like the hypocrites. And it is a tactic of bullying. It's manipulative. And it is also a tactic of seeing how far they're going to push you psychologically, knowing full well just how much you struggle mentally, because people like that are abusive and they're not your friends,
Agreed.
And it's.
Absolutely agreed. Eric, what are your thoughts on this?
Well, as previously mentioned in the first part of this conversation, I think that if they are ghosting you, then they're pretty much doing you a favor. They didn't need to be in your life. In the analogy, if they are one of the playground executives or the bully, when someone bullies you, do you want them in your life? So, I know it's harder when you have something personally vested in a relationship, but I guess the cold analysis of it is if they don't want to be in your life, then they don't deserve to be blessed to be in your life. And you just need to move forward and be strong. And eventually one day they'll be sorry. But keep in mind, we're not doing this to get back. We're not doing this to retaliate. We're not doing this to be mean.
No.
We're doing this to move on because we have to survive. And eventually, if they ever develop a conscience, they'll be sorry they did that to you. But
Yeah.
it'll be too late because you moved on.
I agree with you, Eric. The goal about it's self-growth, and it's just about, you want to be the bigger person, and there's no need of malicious intent to retaliate against anyone. It's going to happen either way to them. Karma eventually does come around. You reap what you sow, and I'm a firm believer in that. I feel like those types of people, as soon as something inconveniences them that you do, whether you like it or not, whether you try or not, they will cut you out of their lives, either with a small explanation or not. So you think that they're on your side, and you think that they're great people, but eventually you start to see different sides of them, and the mask falls off. In due time, mask falls off, and you get to see their true colors. So it's a very unfortunate part of life. But people are very good at putting on a good, and people are good actors, right? And they're good at putting on a facade of who you think they are, and I really am trying to understand why I'm keep meeting those kinds of people. I feel like I'm a very empathetic person, and I'm a very good listener. So I think that I meet the coolest people who are very worldly, who are very much like, I get along with them, and we have a lot of things in common, but I've been disappointed by a lot of those people. Especially by someone who I recently met in Milwaukee here, who I found out through mutual friends that he's done his share of horrible things to people. He's always been that guy, like, I'm the man, and I'm such a good guy, and I'm a family guy, and I love my wife, and this and that, but, and he turned out to be a snake in the grass. And, it's very unfortunate that he likes to project a lot of things onto people and point fingers at other people, but he's got a lot of his own issues. A lot of his own issues. But when you give him any constructive feedback, he'll get defensive because he wants things to go his way. He will not take your criticism or feedback. And that is immaturity. And that is someone that you don't want to be friends with,
That's the whole thing. Yep.
Yeah.
Would you say that these people, do they share any commonalities with you, like any similar struggles, or totally different?
Similar struggles, of course. When my other friends back in Chicago, we shared a lot of those commonalities. Where she was with a narcissist, but she ended up being the narcissist and being the puppet master, and I was the puppet on her strings. You know what I mean? So when those kinds of people no longer can control you, and they can no longer, control how they behave, and they feel like they are threatened by either anything you have, they're going to project their insecurities onto you, and they're going to think that you're the problem, and they're going to just distance themselves from you, and they're going to start just behaving in a way that's very conceited. So it's very unfortunate, but those types of people exist, because they like ass kissers. And those are very toxic and unhealthy friendships where passive people are going to be their friends. That is exactly like that one girl Mark knows, and I know, who I was friends with since middle school. You know what I mean? And she was that type of person who I was pretty much kissing her ass all the time. And if I would ever stand up to her, that was not okay, And I was the one that was just ignoring my values, my beliefs. And I had no self-respect at all, because I was coming to her and apologizing to her for things that she did to me. And I kept questioning myself. I asked myself, why do I keep doing that? Why am I apologizing to someone for something that they did to me? Because the thing is that I'm apologizing to them for reacting for how shitty they treated me. So that's a very common thing that people do. It is that playground effect, that mind control that people have,
So you may not have been asking me, Sarmo. You want to say something?
Oh no, go ahead, Eric. Yeah, you're up.
So you may not have been asking me, but you kind of posed the question out there of why does this keep happening to you? Something you said right
Yeah.
now about how you ignore your values, that can be a big causation for what happens to people when you go against what you know you believe in or what you know is right. And then the other aspect I asked, and unless I misunderstood, you said some of these people had similar uh, issues than you may be facing, but what it seems like is they don't have your good character. And
Thank you. They don't have the
so,
character. Thank
so
you. Yeah.
if that's a fair assessment, then hopefully this won't be offensive. It'll be taken in the heart in which it was given. So there was somebody who was talking about vibrations
Mhm.
and energy.
Mhm.
If you take a grand piano and you put it on a stage and you put a grand piano a few feet away from it and you strike the C chord, what chord is going to vibrate on the opposite piano? The C chord,
C chord, yeah.
because like resonates. So you are not the same in character, but you have similar issues, and therefore you're finding people of similar issues, but don't have your character, and so it ends up being destructive for you. So again, not that you're asking me, but potentially trying to change your frequency, your vibe, and just going into the self-help growth mindset may be helpful to help you graduate to a different playground. If that does that make sense?
Yeah, it does, Eric. And I actually really like that it wasn't really a metaphor, it was more of an analogy, right? I like that ripple. It's like a ripple effect. That chord, it pretty much like, it comes out on the other end. It's like going through like a secret doorway. Where do you think you're going to go? You're pretty much going to go on the opposite side of the secret doorway. Um, I like that you use that analogy because, it's that type of energy that you give off. You can project, or you can actually connect with different types of people, and it's important to build friendships, but it's just about how you, at the end, how your character shows, it's about the principle. It's about your moral compass, and something that Mark and I actually spoke about before, but it's about your moral compass, right? And if you're lacking a moral compass, people are a hypocrite. They're hypocrites and stuff. They'll say one thing, but then they'll do something completely opposite, and you're going to start questioning their integrity, and you're going to start questioning their character. And believe me, I've had my share of instances in recent years that's happened. But I put myself, and it's I can't sit here and beat myself up over it. I feel like I just need to have a better judge of character, and I just need to kind of proceed with caution more and be very careful about who I open up to, who I first meet, because
Definitely.
not everybody is who they seem to be, you know.
And especially on social media. I don't know if you meet people on social media at all. Do you ever delve into that?
I met my friend from Chicago in mid 2022 after after I was still going through kind of like the abusive effects of my relationship with my ex-boyfriend. Um, and she lived in the same building that he lived in, but I didn't want to mention that to her. So it was just about not having that trust in her to reveal who he was, you know. But I told her specifically, like, I am not going to try to correlate you to him. I already opened up to her, and I just felt like I could easily open up with this girl. We kicked it off really well. We hit it off. And I immediately just kind of like, opened up to her and her friends. And I felt like we were all kind of bonded as a group. I was crying in front of them. And I'm like, I can't believe I'm standing in this elevator in this high rise building. This is on Irving Park Road in Chicago and stuff in Lakeview. And I'm like, I can't believe I'm standing here. Like, I haven't been in this elevator since like my ex and I were in this elevator together. And I started to get very emotional. I then and there exposed myself and made myself vulnerable to them. You can't do that, so close and so soon in a friendship or anything like that, because people are definitely going to start to take advantage of that down the line. And they're going to be like, oh, Suzie, she's so sensitive, and she's so empathetic, and we could just do whatever we want with her, because at the end of the day, I don't think a lot of people have their best interest, your best interest at heart. Call me a cynic, but I feel like I've become more of a cynic over the years for a number of reasons.
Absolutely.
So
And I want to say that to your point, both of you were saying those kinds of people that you're talking about. I can't tell you how many years, I'm not even talking about years, decades, I probably went ahead and tried to please people like that, thinking, oh, they're going to go ahead and ghost me. They're going to go ahead and talk down to me. They're going to go ahead and be a friend by convenience. And here I was like, why? I've got to do something wrong. I mean, there's got to be some kind of winning formula to win these popular people over, right? Or these people, these
yeah.
personalities over. It must be something that I'm doing. And then as if I didn't have enough doubt, or not doing, and then as if I didn't have enough doubt in myself. On top of that, I go to my parents or people like that, asking them, and they're like, yeah, it's got to be something that you're doing. You're really just not like everybody else. Like, no matter what you're doing, all roads in society, that almost all the feedback we get is all roads lead back to there's something wrong with you, and everybody else is normal, or everybody else is just going along with how things are supposed to be, and you just got to go ahead and figure a thing out. Well, here I am today. I'm a father. I'm a middle-aged man, and
Oh
I
yeah.
have a career and that kind of
Hmm.
thing. And I can proudly say that I don't feel like there's anything intrinsically wrong with me. I'm a person trying to make it by, just like anybody else. I have my shortcomings, just like anybody else. There's nobody out there who needs to make me feel bad about who I am, and vice versa about them. So, to anybody who tried to make me feel bad back in the day, or made either one of you try to feel bad about who you were back in the day, I have a not so subtle, not so family friendly, send off to those people. Maybe they've all come around and are listening to our program today. But some of the final thoughts for this segment that I wanted to get into, we called it the playground pandemic. So I wanted to go ahead with the last part of our show here, and I wanted to elaborate specifically on social media, how that became even more of a bullying ground, and breeding ground, also for memes or ways to cut people down, ways for people to seek affirmation, how that's hurt people. And again, during and post COVID, where that playground pandemic, especially with respect to social media and how the pandemic changed the world, speaks to the playground, and to how it affects us today and how it will affect us in the future. Eric, let's start with you. What do you think about that, the playground pandemic, and what that means, especially in regards to social media?
I'd like to hear a little bit of context, if I can, from you, exactly what is being implied by the pandemic and social media, for me to have a better answer, if that's possible.
Absolutely. Well, so the pandemic involves and I'm glad you asked me that. You asked me to elaborate on that point. The pandemic kind of involves, something metaphorically, it's an infection, right? It's an infection that exists in society where people are plagued, right? Uh, Plagued by this need for affirmation, or to connect, or to relate, and they channel that through this one very important medium or set of mediums. And again, when people going ahead and looking to a place like social media, for example, nothing against any one of these companies individually, I have my own opinions about them, but Facebook or Snapchat or Instagram, how many people are going to like my photo, or who's going to stop being my friend once I go ahead and make a remark, and that kind of thing. I know that's affected Suzie. I know this affected me to some degree, to a lesser degree. I'm from a little bit of a earlier generation. But the thing is that but specifically, how do you think that kind of thing, tech and social media, as had its own infectious effect on society, especially during the course of the pandemic, and how much maybe we've emphasized it or overemphasized it, I guess. Does that help in any way, Eric?
It does, definitely, yeah, 100%. So, as we try and delve into different social situations, it's hard enough already in real life, in real time, to figure out people's character, meaning who's genuine and who's not. Because everyone, as we established earlier, is about who has the coolest personality. Social media just makes it a million times harder, because you don't actually see anybody. You see the perfect picture they took. You see the perfect blurb that they took maybe 2 hours to write. So you're not able to ascertain what their real value is as a person. So as a musician, for example, you're going to attract other musicians, but you have no idea if they're good people or not. And that just, again, becomes incrementally harder on social media. There's no way to ascertain that. Plus, what you say on social media never goes away. At least conversations had in the privacy of an elevator or in a room or in someone's house, becomes a he said, she said kind of scenario. But, when it's social media, they can hold that against you the rest of your life. So I think that's an important dynamic that makes social media that much more dangerous.
And COVID has placed even more of an emphasis, or that period, more of an emphasis on social media, because if people were outside, maybe they were doing stuff outside too during COVID. But I think that memes and social media and selfies probably got even more emphasis because people are social distancing. And Suzie, I know that you've had an on again, off again relationship with several social media accounts. Would you like to speak to that specifically? How that changed during COVID, or how there was more emphasis during COVID?
Yeah, I want to go back to you, Mark. I don't want to just make it about myself. I'm very grateful that you guys, you and Eric have having me on your show. You know what I mean? And honestly, and then I'm proud of you for, never being this immersed and involved in social media. You've never let it in or allowed it to be a focal point in your life. You were out there just more so focusing on your real life. And I'm very proud of you, and I commend you because not a lot of people nowadays, even prior to that, you've always had hobbies, you've always had interests beyond social media. You just don't put a lot of emphasis into it. But I feel like lockdowns and the pandemic especially have enabled people to just sit on social media a lot more. And they took a lot of hobbies on as well. But people have been people needed social media to make some kind of money, and there are a lot of people who use these platforms, especially TikTok, which is now being banned, right? But it just got out of control, and now people just live behind social media. Like, this is kind of like a mask that I'm putting on, these are these filters and these selfies that I'm taking, and I'm trying to show people how happy I am. And I have this fucking dog, and excuse my language, this big house, and I've got like a great husband and kids, and it's just a facade that people put on. And it's just merely like the surface level of everything, but it is a figment of what people want to portray about themselves, but it is not reality.
Absolutely.
And I've done that. I've seen, I go, why did this person block me? Did I deactivate their profile? Who cares? It did bother me. My cat is having the zoomies. I apologize. He needs to work out a little bit. He's getting chunky.
No worries at all.
But yeah, no, it's just one of those things where, I want certain people to have access to my life, and I don't want people to have access to my life. You know what I mean? And it doesn't make me a bad person. It's just I understand that their intentions are not good. So I don't want them to have access to my life,
Absolutely. Well, with our show, we really don't do much political commentary with the show and that kind of thing. Yeah. But I will say this. To my recollection, I think that Donald Trump, I think about 4 or whatever it was, he wanted to go ahead and ban it before. And I think that as of right now, I think that my understanding was from him that he actually wanted to help prolong the life of TikTok or give it a different avenue, maybe by a seller in the U.S. But that's kind of neither here nor there. But in general, yes, absolutely. It's people have lived and channeled their life through much of that. And yeah, so we're running out of time on our program here. Again, we invite all of you guys to go ahead and continue listening in the future. We hope you enjoyed today's program. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And just any quick final thoughts we have with just a few minutes left. Eric, let's start with you. What are your final thoughts for today?
A big thanks to Suzie for being on our show.
Of course.
Hope you enjoyed it. Hope you found it productive and maybe helpful a little bit. Hope to have you again. Invite anybody else who would like to sit at this table and have a conversation. It's a much needed conversation. And everybody have a blessed week. And until next time, thank you guys for an amazing episode.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Suzie, final thoughts from you before I do my little wrap up.
This was a great way to I appreciate you guys again. Thank you for having me on your show, kind of gauging where, who I am and my experiences and how it pertains to, the premise of your show, and I'm sure there's a lot more to unpack, but I'm glad that I just, kind of scratched the surface here, would kind of give you an idea of who, what I've been through. And I appreciate you allowing me and giving me that space to communicate and talk about my experiences and hear your thoughts and, you share your experiences.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for that. And my final thoughts again, it's hard to do. It's hard for me to do. I think it was difficult for Susie to do, even Eric to do. But again, if you have those people in your life, are toxic, who are going ahead, they're ghosting, they're gaining an advantage over you at every turn, that kind of thing. Whether it takes you a day, a week, a month, a year, dig really, really deep, because as painful it's going to be to go ahead and let those people go, to purge them from your life. Go ahead and find a way to do that, because your life is going to end up in the long term better. And in the short term, that person might give you the information you need. It might be a quick fix. In the long term, you're going to be better off for it. I know that I'm better off for it. From Susie's experience, she's better off for it too. Remember, if you're the last kid picked for the sports team in class, it's not necessarily because you're not the best athlete. It's because of the fact that you might not be the coolest kid in school. You might not be the most popular kid in school, and that's a problem with them. That's not a problem with you. And same kinds of things we talk about. We repeat on the show. If you're getting bullied, if you feel you're a victim of nepotism, again, you have to find a situation that's the right fit, because for every several situations that are clearly, you're clearly at a disadvantage. Eventually, you'll come in. This is speaking from personal experience. You'll come into a career situation. You'll come into personal situations where you're treated much more fairly, and the past doesn't constantly have to hover behind you. Again, thank you all for your time today. Sending much love in regards to everyone out there. Our show is for everybody. And again, please like and subscribe. We'll continue doing what we're doing, and we'll see you next time. Take care. Bye-bye.
Peace. Thank you.